Welcome to another episode of the Cosmic Hour. I am Astro Krys, and I'm being joined with my co-host, Emma. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to talk today about the Astrological New Year, and we're going to be talking not just about that, but also about Aries season. So let's get right into that. We don't want to make this episode too long. We get really excited talking astrology. Um, okay, should we start with the keywords?
Yeah, let's look at the keywords for Aries.
Awesome.
Um,
So, Aries season. Now, Aries season is the beginning of the astrological new year. And this season always starts off very strong with a lot of energy, and the universe responds the same way. We see nature respond the same way. The animals start coming out, the bees start flying, the birds start chirping. So we see this upbeat energy everywhere. Aries people tend to be very upbeat as well. We see a lot of competitiveness in their nature as well. They tend to be leaders, impulsive, blunt. Any Aries planets are going to act this way. I'm not an Aries, but I have Mercury in Aries. So I tend to communicate this way. And I also tend to stutter a little bit because I actually think faster than I speak. So I also see this Aries impulsiveness come through with my speech and how I enunciate things, get really excited. I also have a very loud voice. Even I don't think I have a whispering voice. I can't whisper for the life of me. That does not exist in my vocabulary. Um, but yes, Aries energy is very exciting. Yet there's always, some downsides. Every single zodiac sign has their downsides. Maybe Emma can share some of her um takes on Aries downsides and qualities.
yeah, so I have a lot of Aries friends, actually, family members and friends, and I love them to death. They're one of my favorite people. But they, I feel like Aries people, they can be very impatient sometimes. And sometimes that can lead to a little bit of aggressiveness from time to time. So I have to like remind them, like, stop being an Aries to try to calm down that energy a little bit. And they roll their eyes at me. But yeah, they are very blunt people. Literally what they think is what they say. Like I think with Aries, it's say first and then think later. I don't know if you can relate. You have a Mercury in Aries, so you're probably speak before you think as well.
Motto. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no other way to communicate but that way.
I feel like sometimes it can get them in a little bit of trouble, but with the Aries energy, they don't care. They say what's on their mind, and then they also move on really fast. So they don't tend to stay mad or in that like aggressive energy a long time. Like they move on from things really, really fast.
Yes, it's very childlike energy. I mean, I tend to be a little hot-headed too. I mean, I have my sun in Pisces, but when it comes to my communication, I'm very quick to the point, very blunt. I appreciate yes, no, move on fast. Let's do this. And then I move on. I just like I let's move on to the next thing. Very exciting, very adventurous, communication, daring. I love friendly competition. I love like I love boxing, and I think that's what like the competitiveness, like where that comes from, like watching these sports where you're just like, ah, so even though I'm not an Aries, they still have like that quality. Plus, have a strong Mars in my chart too. It's in Scorpio, so I'm sure that also plays a part, even if it's not Aries energy. It's one of the Mars is the ruler of Aries. So yeah, I appreciate this energy. I love Aries people because of the honesty. I think they're brutally honest.
Yeah.
And that's one of the I think one of their qualities that I feel is it could be like a double-edged sword. Sometimes it works for their favor and sometimes it doesn't. But in my opinion, I feel it's appreciated because I rather a person be upfront and honest than someone that is, maybe nice to your face, but talking behind your back. And Aries is usually not a person that would care about that. It's like they'll tell you how it is, what it is, and they really don't really care if you like it or not. So it is what it is. You like them, you like them. You don't, and they kind of move on. They tend not to hold a lot of grudges, so that's like a blessing, I think, too, because they kind of move
Yeah.
on. So I think that's why a lot of people could either really appreciate that or they really don't. So it does take a special type of person to understand Aries energy. But in general, for the Aries season, if we really tune into it, it's just a time to be very active, time to be very, involved in, doing extracurricular activities outside. Like we've been cooped up all winter. So during this time, you kind of want to go out. Is there anything like you like to do during this time?
Um, I like to spend time outdoors because that's when like the weather starts getting a little bit nicer. Um, Here in Miami, we don't have like harsh winters like most of the country has, but when the temperature drops to like low 60s, that's freezing cold for me. So I don't like that particular weather. But when like right now we're starting to get warmer weathers, like we're back to the 70s, and I'm enjoying spending a lot more time outside and in nature. I like to go on maybe for a walk or a run. I like there's like a bridge by the beach that I love to go running on like on Sunday mornings. So that's what I like to do when the weather starts getting a little bit better, like in the spring.
Ooh, that sounds cool. I
Yeah, what about you?
I mean, I just like being outside more. I live in California, specifically Southern California. So, I mean, our springs are kind of like summers. So they start getting hotter. Um, as it's more deeper into Aries season, you can even, go to the beach. Maybe not go into the water, but yeah, like maybe have, you know, walks by the beach or, have a picnic by the beach. So I like to do a lot of things like that. Like I like to go by the water. Honestly, I love that. Or um strolls in the park, things like that. Just like to be out more. But my favorite thing to do is have morning walks. And I like to meditate with the sun, especially as the sun is rising. I do a lot of seasonal meditations depending on where the sun is and what zodiac sign. And during Aries season, I do sun meditation. And I'm very careful because I do like it's a form of sun gazing, but I do it with my eyes closed and it's not for a long period of time, but I align myself to the energies of Aries. So that's like my favorite thing to do. I kind of look forward to it, and you could only do it for a few days out of the year because then after that the sun gets stronger and then it moves into other constellations, so you don't get the same qualities of Aries. So you have to wait for the next year. So it's like little, little glimpse of time that you have throughout the year. So I get excited. So like, oh yeah, the sun's gonna be in Aries. It's exalted. It's time for me to sun gaze. So yeah, I know, geeking out over here over that.
Yeah, last year I was part of your sun gazing challenge. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember. No, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think I don't think I did it last year. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, and it was my favorite thing. I would put my alarm in the morning to wake up just so I can go sun gaze.
Yes, it energizes you like so much. I love it. I love it. So I
Yeah,
look forward to that. And in that course, I taught everyone how to do that, and then also how to align not just to Aries. You can do it to Leo season too, but Aries season is much kinder than Leo season because by the time we do it in Leo season, the sun's much brighter, especially where depending where you live. Like if you're in Southern
yeah.
California, like me. So yeah, Aries is going to be more friendlier for people like in California or even in your area. Because
Yeah, in Miami, we can't really be outside during Leo season because either it's really, really hot or it's always raining. There's no in between. So yeah, it's very humid and it's very wet during Leo season here in Miami. Yeah.
okay, yeah, we don't get that much rain during the summer over here.
Oh
Um,
wow,
no, we don't.
lucky you.
It's yeah, during the summer it's just hot. So, yes, that is Aries season in a nutshell. Okay, so this is a glyph for Aries for anyone that does not know how that looks. It looks like a little ram, and that is the animal that represents Aries. It's the ram going full force. When you upset the ram, it attacks you. It goes full force straight at you. But now we're going to focus on something else that Aries is representing. So we're going to give you a little bit of history on the calendar. So um I'm going to take it back to the basic of the word calendar was derived from. So calenday, which is um a word that was taken from calendarium, which was something that meant like ledger or an account book. So the calendae is believed to originate from the Latin verb calari, which meant to call out. And this was taken from ancient Rome. So they're like calling out the new moons. So now we created the word calendar. So technically, the word calendar is calling out the moons. That's basically where that originated from. Now, there's several calendars that are used across the world. One of them that just happened that's very popular is the Chinese lunar calendar. Because we're entering the year of the dragon, and they use the moon, and their calendar is a lunisolar calendar, meaning they use the moon and the sun, and they have like, think of it as an ephemeris, um, but they have everything kind of already mapped out for like years and years, and they do like 60 periods at a time, and then they kind of start the cycles all over again. And they map these out based on energies and days. So it's pretty similar to how we kind of have cycles with our planets and things like that. They just do things a little bit different, but they still use elements. So there's a kind of like a lot of overlap, but a lot of differences as well. They still have a 12 12 cycle, but they use a 12-year cycle. They follow Jupiter actually. Their animals are based on where Jupiter is transiting sidereally. So that's in a nutshell. It's more complex than that, but I have a lot to cover, so I'm moving on. The next one is the Mayan calendar, and I've actually have like a huge fascination over the Mayan calendar. I've been studying Mayan astrology for a few years now, and I'm getting ready to teach a course on Mayan astrology. So that's coming up sometime this year, later on this year, where I'm going to teach this course. It's just very interesting when you learn this astrology, how it just gives you a different depth in your personality, and how it can be also very accurate, and there's more than just like the same thing, like how in astrology there's more than just your sun. Even the complexities with this system, there's more than just the your day ruler. It goes more deep than just your day ruler. So very interesting. But the Mayan calendar is also very accurate, and it has a 52-year cycle. Um It's also based by days, kind of similar to the Chinese calendar, but they're using the day, the Mayan calendar, they focus more a lot on Venus. They used a lot of the planets as well. Mercury's not mentioned as much, and I found that very interesting because Mercury went retrograde a lot, and I'm kind of wondering if Mercury wasn't mentioned as much because since Mercury goes retro and it travels so close to the sun, maybe they didn't notice that Mercury was there. Because sometimes, since Mercury is very close, you don't see it's combust, so you don't see him in the sky. I'm not really sure if that's the case, but I mean, Venus is so bright, you're gonna notice Venus. And I mean, their agriculture, their planting and all that, it was really based around Venus and also the moon. But Venus was like a big one for them. So very fascinating. Their astrology, very fascinating. And their calendar is one of the most accurate calendars in the world. So um, very interesting, but we don't follow it. Obviously, we don't use their calendar. And then one of the oldest methods is before the Julian calendar is the pre-Julian calendar, which was a lunar calendar. And this was one of the oldest calendars that we used, and it was using like it was a 10-month calendar, and it had a total of 304 days, and it began with March. And it was really it was pretty much just marking the new moon to half moon to full moon. So um mainly it was something that was being tracked by astrologers and also highly utilized by farmers, agriculturists, because they were using the moon and its cycles to plant, to harvest, to do all that. Later on, they added additional months, and then that became the 12 months. And then shortly after that, that's when we got introduced to the Julian calendar. That's when the Romans, they saw that there were some flaws to this calendar, and it wasn't fully accurate. So this was around 446 BC when the Julian reform to change this basically lunar calendar um, was proposed. And this is the traditional Gregorian calendar that we have now, the 365 days, or as of 2024, 366, because this is a year that we have leap year. This is the calendar that we have now. But we did want to just kind of discuss briefly some of the um charts of the influencers of these calendars that kind of took effect for a while. First being the Julian calendar, Julius Caesar. Now, how accurate his chart, it's not based on astro theme. Um, the day, even his day of birth, is not too accurate. The time is definitely not accurate. As you can see, there's no ascendant here. They're using a just natural layout, Aries chart, because there's no time. Um, and then the day is also questionable. They don't know if this is the correct date, either this day or the day after, I think. Um, but mainly what me and Emma wanted to focus on was more on the energies of the chart. So just kind of looking in general on how like the planets where they were, maybe just like, the major ones like the sun, looking at Venus, and the planets that are not going to really move in a day or two. And even the moon, even just say if he was born the day before, the moon would still be in Aries. And what we found interesting is that the majority of his planets are in cardinal energies. And based on the current um, astrological system and our astrology as a calendar, how we use astrology now, astrology is seasonal. And our astrology is based on the seasons. And that's how we start a new pretty much we could say a new calendar, right? Like a new season in that calendar is based on a new cardinal energy coming through. So we're seeing that Julius Caesar had a lot of cardinal energy.
Yeah, and just for those who don't know what cardinal energy is, the cardinal energy, it's the start of each season. For example, Aries is a cardinal sign, and that's when the spring starts. Cancer is another cardinal sign. That's when summer starts, and he has three planets in Cancer, as we can see. And Libra is the other cardinal sign, which he has no planet in Libra. And the last one would be Capricorn, and he has two planets in Capricorn. So basically, yeah, like you mentioned, most of more than half actually are in cardinal signs.
Yeah, like pretty much we can say like almost like all of them. The only one, because back then they didn't use the outer planets. So if we just exclude the outer planets, the only one that's not in cardinal energy is Mars and
Mars.
Jupiter.
Yeah.
And another thing that I found interesting is I mean Saturn's in dignity in the sign of Capricorn. So then Saturn gains a lot of strength in being in a cardinal energy too. But Saturn is the ruler of time and calendar. It is a way to measure time. So I was just like, oh, he had to come in with time measurement. And what he proposed was he introduced that we create a calendar that was going to have a fixed year of 365 days divided into 12 months, and that it was going to mainly be a solar year. Um, and then that there was going to be a leap year every 4 years. So that's what the structure of the Julian calendar was. So that's what he proposed. He did work with um a astronomer. I think
Yeah.
his name was Alexandrian um Sosthenes, something like that. I should have wrote this down. But he he did consult. He had his astronomer slash astrologer, and they came up with this calendar. And I mean it took effect for many years until the Roman Catholic Church, Mr. Pope Gregory the Eighth in 1582 came along with. It wasn't just him; it was a group of them, and but he was the main leader of the proposal, and he came in and proposed that the Julian calendar be updated because although um the 365 days we still use that and there's still leap year, it was still off. And that's where that adjustment to the leap forward, time backwards. And actually this is really funny, we didn't even think about this, Emma, but we're just about to have a spring forward, right?
Yeah,
We're,
the time change.
yes.
Mhm.
We're about to have that, right? This weekend, is it this weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it is. So, funny. Yeah, so that adjustment was something that their committee proposed. So the calendar will be more accurate since the Julius calendar continued to like the as the years went by, the calendar was actually more off, and like it was like continuing to be off and off. And then that was creating issues with Easter. So this is why the Roman Catholic Church proposed it, because they actually gauge Easter based on the lunation that happens around March. And that's why Easter doesn't have a fixed date. It's based on the lunation, the Aries lunation. And then from there, they set Easter on that Sunday of that based on that lunation. And that was throwing the calculation off. And this is why this proposal from Gregory and his committee occurred. And when we were looking at his chart, we're like, oh, look at that. What are we seeing again, Emma?
Cardinal energy.
Yes. We're like, oh, another guy with cardinal energy. So just so interesting that astrology, again, based on every time we change seasons, it's cardinal energy that changes it. And here we have these major influencing people that are changing the way we're measuring time with cardinal energy. And one thing that I did, I thought it was kind of cool. And his chart seems, based on astro theme, it seems to be accurate based on what they're publishing. I'm not really sure how accurate that is, because obviously he was born in 1582, so I don't know how they kept accurate records of that, but either way, based on the information I got there, his moon is at 9 degrees in Capricorn. And based on the Gregorian calendar, the new year begins January 1st every year. And January 1st, the sun is actually around 9 to 10 degrees. It does change slightly because, again, that adjustment to leap year. So it's not going to be real exact. The science to the exactness of the sun has not been correct. Like it's not to a T. They have not perfected it. So sometimes it's off. That's why some people, when they get a solar return reading, they're like, wait, but that's not actually my birth date. Sometimes the solar return happens the day after, the day before, or the day of, right? So it's because it's not perfected. So sometimes the sun is around this time or a little bit after, like 10-degree mark. But the reason I know this because my Jupiter sits exactly at 10 degrees in Capricorn. So every New Year, every New Year's Day, or around New Year's Eve, around the afternoon, I have the sun conjunct my Jupiter, and I always do like a little ritual or something because that's supposed to be my lucky aspect. That's when the sun is joining my Jupiter, and that's my own personal luck. So, because I do practice astro magic, I do like a little ritual for myself during that time. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, look at that. Every single time we're starting a new year, we're actually reactivating this guy's energy. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And
Yeah,
Emma,
that is pretty cool.
yeah, Emma happens to have something there too, huh, Emma?
I have my Saturn at 9 and my Neptune at 11. So I end the year with Saturn, the sun transiting my Saturn, and I start the year with it on my Neptune.
Isn't that so cool? And we end up talking about this topic. So like the universe just kind of aligned it for us to talk about this, and we needed to bring up this guy's chart. And you actually have your sun conjunct his Mercury.
Yeah, and my Venus is conjunct his sun.
Oh. And
Yeah,
oh, interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. So
And I
yeah,
struggle a lot with following the calendar, like the regular calendar. I struggle a lot with that, and that's really interesting that I have similar energy as him.
yeah, I mean, well, I'm gonna disclose more stuff. I also have a lot of energy as he does too, because
Yeah.
so I'll point out a lot of the points. My Venus is at 2 degrees in Pisces, and he has his S at 3. My part of fortune is conjunct his sun. Um, and my midheaven is on his Jupiter.
Oh, and my Jupiter is on his Mars.
Yeah, and my north node is on his Saturn. I'm a Leo ascendant. He's a Leo ascendant.
Wow.
My Mars is on his Pluto. Like, like so there's just like a lot of things. I'm just like, oh, we just needed to talk about you, huh?
Yeah.
Not everything,
Interesting.
but there's just like a lot of points that like I guess our charts are just triggering. My moon is on his part of fortune. So it's like, oh, okay. Um, but we just, we were brainstorming on what it is that we were going to talk about for Aries season, and this is one of the things that Emma and I are both passionate about, like using astrology and the astrological new year really as the time where you set your intentions, because we've noticed, even based on the time when we are setting our intentions, that when we set the intentions during the new year, a lot of us, we don't follow through with them. And I mean, come we read this often, right? Oh, like they even mock it, like in magazines, like, oh, you fell off the wagon already. So it makes sense because it's Capricorn energy. We're setting intentions and like set a Saturnian. Now, I'm not saying that your whatever you set during Saturnian time is not going to come true at all ever, but it will with a lot of effort because that is Saturn. Saturn takes so much effort versus when we set intentions during Aries season, this is Mars. Mars is quick, Mars is fast. He's like, let's do this. Saturn is slow. He likes to
Yeah.
take time. So when we set intentions during the new year, it should be an intention that is going to be more long term versus during the astrological new year, like around Aries season, it should be an intention that's going to be more short term, quick, and fast, right? So I feel that we should be setting intentions at all the cardinal points, and they should be more aligned to the energy of those points, and we would be like seeing more success in our intentions. Um, and I think this is why, like, Emma and I, when we're talking about it, like, let's talk about this. It's like, you know, tie it all together because this is what we've noticed. And since we've have points during that time and we've been using astrology to manifest, and we look at transits and we look how it hits our own chart, and we pretty much are using the calendar because we're using the transits that are happening like during that day. So we first have to look at the calendar, right? We're looking at the transits, then we're comparing it to our chart, and we're like kind of noticing things and noticing patterns, and we're like, wait a minute, it's not happening. So let's like share this info that we're finding out with others. Let's let them know, like, don't use your quick or like fast goals, like losing weight. Like that's one of the things you kind of want to set intentions during Aries season. You want to start new workout regimen. Aries, I think it's better than Capricorn. Capricorn, maybe you can do working out or losing weight, but it would have to be like a long-term goal. Like I want to make like an example, like I would like to have a lifestyle where I work out on a daily basis. So then that means like you're not necessarily having a target like I want to lose weight. You're saying for the rest of my life, I'm going to work out. So then the goal is more like I'm incorporating workout. You're not necessarily having a goal like by the end of this year, I lost X amount of weight so I can attend my friend's wedding, right? So that's the difference versus Aries. It's like, no, I need to lose 20 pounds for the wedding, right? So that's like the difference between the manifesting. I don't know. What's your opinion, Emma?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And especially with transits, it's really important to look at transits when you want to manifest something. Because take, for example, the new year of last year, 2023, January 1st of 2023, both Mars and Mercury were retrograde. So I was looking at everyone online who were setting their intentions and their resolutions for the year. And I was like, I don't know if this is the day where I want to set my long term resolution for the year when Mars and Mercury are retrograde. So I think it's really important to look at transits and especially how it is with your chart. Um, but I like to start like a new chapter, if you we want to call it that, on the during the Aries, the new astrological year. I remember when I first joined you, I set intentions on the equinox, and a year after I read those intentions that I set, and it was how it started already to like become in place. And I don't remember if you I don't know if you remember. I messaged you about it.
I actually don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I said I can't remember exactly what it was that I said, but I remember a year later finding that paper and I was like, oh my God, I am living like what I set for myself back then. And yeah, and it was related to astrology. It was back then when I was first started studying astrology. And now here I am on a podcast with you doing astrology like almost full time.
Amazing. I remember now because you had told me. I remember now. I mean, ever since then we've gotten really close and we talk like almost every day. So then I'm not gonna remember isolated stuff like
Yeah.
that. But now that you kind of like you reminded me, now I remember you telling me what it was. So yes, and it's true. Like when you align it specifically, like if you and that's kind of what I do with like my tribe, right? Like in the Astro tribe, like I teach you how to manifest based on the energy because you can manifest whatever you want whenever you want. But if you manifest really by using the universal energy that's there, like you're just going to get way more based on that. Like, because you're going to use the momentum. It's like, oh, this is what's in alignment for me right now. And you're just going to be riding the wave and you're going to keep on manifesting and attracting what it is that you are, calling in at that time. So that's how I like to do it, and there's always a time and a place, and you'll see like everything just kind of like falls into place, like it just like a perfect puzzle, and you feel so much fulfillment, you feel so happy because at the end you're like, I have everything that I want. And then sometimes you feel like there's really nothing else I want to ask for at this time. I feel so happy. So then you just send gratitude, and then you just feel like you get even more because you're sending gratitude at that point. So I don't know. I just love, I love aligning my intentions with the transits, and you need to look at the calendar for that. So I love calendaring everything. um and there's no surprise why. What do I have um conjunct this guy's the creator of the Gregorian calendar, his moon, my Jupiter is right at 10 degrees right on his moon, so maybe that's why I love the calendar, because I happen to be a Pisces, and a lot of Pisces people are not really good at calendaring things. But I was a hot mess before. I did not calendar things. I would not remember things for the life of me. And I had to channel in the Virgo side and, go to the other side and say, no, I need to get more organized. And as soon as I got more organized, um, I started seeing how I can manifest more things if I still loosely do things, but if I have some kind of order, like it needs to be something kind of in an orderly fashion versus the way, Pisces likes it. There's no order to it. So that's what I've noticed. And I think a calendar can give you a little bit of order. But going back to the Gregorian calendar, I found this really cool. I found this on online. I think it was Wikipedia where I got this image from. And this is the official notice that uh Pope Gregory's committee um issued out. And they called it the lunario. So this is lunario, meaning they're using the moon to calendar, right? The moons. And I thought it was really cool how they drew like a little star and the sun, and it looks like this is an eclipse right here, like the moon and the sun together. And they have even the months here. So they're like petitioning and saying all the changes that they want to make to the Julius calendar. So this is the day that the Gregorian calendar was to take effect. Uh, so if you go onto like Astro Gold. This is what I use to populate this chart, and you type in October 4th of 1582. This was the last day of the Julius calendar. And just take note of the sun. It's 21 degrees of Libra. I mean, 20 degrees of Libra. And then take note of Mercury, 13 degrees of Libra. And then also let's point out where Neptune is at, 20 degrees of Cancer, and 15 degrees of Cancer is where Mars is at. And again, they're in cardinal energies. Cardinal points. Even the nodes are in cardinal points. And we still have Pluto in cardinal energy too. So a lot of cardinal energy during the change as well. But we also did have some mutable energy. We had Saturn in mutable energy. We had Venus in mutable energy. So they needed to have some changes. Yet the moon was exalted. So meaning that the change was going to go through, right? The moon in Taurus in an exaltation form, meaning the change was going to fix and go through. The day, like as soon as the day switched over from October 4th, like so October 3rd, 11:59 p.m. and then it went to October 4th. It was 7 degrees of Leo. So again, a fixed ascendant, Jupiter and Uranus. We're just having a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction this year as well. No surprise that we're talking about the calendar. I mean, what if there's changes on the calendar this year? I don't know. It's it's an Aquarius Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. So weird because this time around we're having a Jupiter Taurus I mean, yeah, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus conjunction, which is a fixed energy. And it's happening here, actually, 21, right on this
Yeah.
moon. Interesting. So
Mhm.
either way, when we then change the day, so if you plug this information in on Astro Gold and then you change the day forward, this is what you get. You want to go over that?
Yeah, so when you go for the next day from October 4th on the app, it skips and goes to October 15. And if we look at the degrees that Chris pointed out in the first chart, the sun is at 21 degrees of Libra, 1 degree off of what it was before, 20 degrees on October 4th. So this is technically the next day, even though it skipped 11 days from October 4th.
That's pretty cool. So let us know if you try it out. As you can see, there's not a lot of changes. Let me go back so you can take a look at that again. So look, 15, very slight changes, right? 13, 20, Neptune 20, but the day is 4. We go to 15. Neptune's still at 20 degrees. Mars just changed slightly. The nodes remained the same. The moon did move. It was in Taurus around 20, remember? And now it's in because the moon moves between anywhere between like 11 to like 15 degrees in one day, depending how fast it is. So it did move to Gemini. But everything else, I mean, it moved in its regular motion. So as you can see, the effect took change during this day, and this is when the Gregorian calendar took place, and we've been using it since then.
Side note, I wonder what happened to the people who had birthdays in between those days.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, instead of like them being born October
Did
the 5th, it was like, oh, October 15th is your birthday. I know I thought about that too. I was like, oh, so if you thought you were going to be due on October 5th, you actually were born October 15th. And like, what if like you lived in like a rural area and like you didn't get the memo? Because I mean, this was 1582, so like only the cities got it. Like, I don't know. How is it that they announced this? Like how did they tell everyone? Like, hey, we're changing the date. Like did everyone get the memo on the same? I don't know. I was thinking about that too. So Now, this chart, I included this chart because this is traditionally how they used to start the astrological new year in Hellenistic and Babylonian astrology. What would predict or start the new year was not a fixed date. It would be after the first lunation in March. So the month of March would start spring, and spring will start the new year. Um, so you would look at the first new moon of March, and that would not constitute the new year, but the first born crescent moon, meaning when the moon would rise. So, just an example, we're about to have the new moon it's going to be on the 10th. So, it wouldn't be on the 10th that the moon would be considered, or it would be considered the new year, because it hasn't like during the day it hasn't risen yet. Like we have the new moon that day, so then we need to wait till the next following day, and then the moon rises. And because it's a crescent moon, that's as soon as the moon is born and it's rising, it's like the same thing like being born as a morning star. So it would be born as a morning star, then that would be the new, like the day of the spring. So it would be the new spring. And that's complicated to follow. Only certain people can do that. And this was the old method before the Julius calendar. And that's probably why they ended up getting rid of this method, because it's very complicated, right? There's so many rules to it. Once you get it, it's easy, but only astrologers would be into that. The layperson wouldn't be able to do that. And there's ways of interpreting this chart. You would look at the moon, and you would look at the degree that it would rise in, and then also the planets it would rise with, and also the planets that were leading, the planets that were oriental and occidental to it. And then that's how you would depict if the season was going to be good or if it's not going to be good. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but because I did bring up the origins of the new moon, that's hard, not, sorry, not the new moon, the origins of the calendar. I just kind of wanted to show you how they used to forecast the astrological new year before. So technically, if we were to use the old method, the astrological new year would be this weekend, Mars 11. Um, and pretty much if we look at the energy, we see that we have all the planets, pretty much all the planets are oriental. Whenever we have most of the planets on top, that's all those planets are out and about, and they're pretty much getting things done. So Mars is the leading planet. Back then, they wouldn't use the outer planets. So Mars is the leading planet. And since Mars is ruling the moon, this is good because that means that Mars is in charge and it's heading forward and it's pushing through. So when Mars leads, this is a very proactive energy. So it's indicating a very courageous time, and society is feeling more driven. It's driven to pursue goals. It's feeling like it's a very competitive time. And the people are also feeling very assertive. So the energy of Aries is really going to be felt during this time. But then you're also going to see some of those qualities, like the ruthless qualities that we talked about, the selfish, the assertive, the aggressiveness. And then we tie it in with where Mars is sitting in the sign of Aquarius. So it could be a little bit more rebellious and unpredictable as well. We do have Venus being there. So Venus is helping. Venus will bring some type of harmony, but it is in Aquarius. So it's going to be more logical and a little bit more detached in its diplomacy. Yet issues around money and values and love will also be on the forefront. And this would Venus will be a morning star here, so she's going to be also more aggressive in her expression. And then lastly, we have Saturn. Saturn is bringing in foundation in regard, like stability in regard to our foundations, and also reinforcing us to rebuild and reconstruct so we can have good discipline. So there's going to be a lot of dedicated work. Yet we also need to recharge and also work on our spiritual foundation because it's in the energy of Pisces. And then lastly, we have Mercury. So Mercury is really close to the moon. And this is depicting a time when we need to look at or pay more attention to our mind and our mindset, because both Mercury and the moon have influence over the mind. The moon has influence more over the subconscious mind versus Mercury has influence more over like the speech and the intelligence. So when they're both together and they're also both in the sign of Aries, and this is like the newborn energy, like the toddler energy, right? The birth energy. It's a time to like start with new beginnings around our belief and our mindset. We also have to be very careful with what we're feeding ourselves, like the things that we're feeding our consciousness with. So, um, Mercury also rules things like merchants and sales and things like that. It's not retro, so it's good because it's actually it's in a position where actually Mercury is not Mercury is rising with the moon, but it's not oriental. Mercury is not oriental. Just wanted to make that clear. It's just rising with the moon. It's actually after the sun, so it's occidental. So it's not as strong. It's still very internalized. So we do have to be very careful about our mindset. Great. So that was that. And then we'll go into the forecast for the actual sun ingress, which is the modern method of depicting the energy of the season using the Gregorian calendar, because this is like the date that we use now. So did you want to take a stab at this?
I just want to point out also that people usually associate the first day of Aries or spring to March 21st or 20th. But it ranges, it varies depending. Like, for example, this year we're having a leap year. So the sun ingress is Aries actually on the 19th and not the 20th or the 21st. Because sometimes like people get confused at those dates.
Yes. And it's actually ingressing it like almost at the end of the 19th, like as the sun is setting. And you can tell, even though I didn't put the time here, you can tell
Mm.
because the sun is in the seventh house.
Yeah, I think for me in the Eastern Coast, I believe it's 9:30, I think,
Yeah.
p.m. So it should be around 6:30 for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you can see, the sun is exactly at 0 degrees in Aries. And this means that the sun is in alignment with the equator. So, if we were to look at the Earth and locate the equator on a globe, the sun would literally be in alignment to that equator. So, it's at that 0 point, and it's now going to rise up and it's going to start going north, north, north. So it's born again. So it's now coming to the north and it's going to start getting hotter in the northern hemisphere. So this is how we're feeling the climate get hotter and hotter, and the animals are responding to this. And this is why we get, the flowers blooming, the birds chirping, and all that. Now, based on the chart, we have the sun bringing topics around partnership, in addition to the ascendant being in the sign of Libra. Now, because we just entered eclipse season. This is going to be a sun ingress season that's very impactful because it's a year that there are eclipses on this axis. Not all Aries sun ingress Aries seasons are like this, but this time around for the next for the rest of this year actually, we're going to have this axis triggered, but next year it's going to be a different story. They move into Pisces and Virgo. So we have the activation of the nodes there as well, also calling forward the energy of partnerships. So we have Mercury very close to the nodes. And when Mercury is close to one of the nodes, especially the North Node, again, bringing in topics of the mind. So we're looking at a season where we really need to expand our mindset, but this is happening fast and quickly, and it's conjunct Chiron. And when Chiron is playing, when Chiron is close, and I know Chiron's newer to astrology and newer to the picture, but he's making his impact, and he's actually very, very instrumental in a lot of charts with people that are in the healing arts and people that have endured like a lot of trauma in their life, and they want to change their story. They don't want to feel like a victim anymore. Like they're empowering themselves. So they're going to take accountability. Like they feel this very strong connection with Chiron. And I feel like right now this is a time where I'm feeling a lot of people like they're fed up with feeling like a victim. Honestly, I'm seeing this more and more often. Like there's more people just talking like real talk, like real spirituality talk, but there's people that talk the nonsense, and there's people that really want to take accountability, and they're like, I'm fed up. Like I just want to move past this. Like I want to move past the person I was before, and I want to change things. And I really feel like it's this Chiron energy that's coming through, especially because it's direct. And now we have Mercury kind of hitting it, and we have the nodes. And I noticed it with the node and Mercury, and now not the node and Mercury. I noticed it with Chiron in the node, and now Mercury's there. So I feel like it's a perfect time for us to like really talk about it and then cut it out, because Aries energy is quick. So it's time to just kind of let these things go. And I had a client really quick. I just It's a side note, but it's a relation to this, that she was talking to me, telling me her story, and like all the trauma she's endured in the past, and she wanted to find a partner. And she was asking, it was a relationship reading. When's my true love gonna come in? I've been doing all this work. I've been working on myself, and not just physically, but also spiritually. And I done all these changes. I healed all these things. But then when she was talking about her past partner, the way that she was talking about him, she still had some hate, some cords still attached to him. And I kind of had to, bring that up, and like I explained that to her. You really can't be attached to that story anymore. And I knew she had forgiven him, because I knew I could feel it, and I know she did. But when she would retell the story, she was still using words that will continue to attach her to the story. Like, I was abused. I was in a relationship where I wasn't respected. So it was like, listen to what you're saying. Like, instead of saying that, maybe you can change the I was abused, and you can change it where, I, instead of, that change it where I don't want to be, or like, different, so I started telling her, like, maybe not even talk about it. Like, you used to be, but why is it that we need to talk about that? Like, why do you need to give that story power? Like, who is it that you need to tell this to? And then, her thing was like, well, I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to other women. And I get that that was part of her story. She was advocating at one point. she because she had to stay quiet for so many years. And then when she freed herself, she had to advocate, she had to talk about it. But then she never got out of that. And then from there, she realized, you're right, I'm still living the story. So it took a while for her to, like, she had to like click and understand what I was talking about. So I feel like this energy with Chiron and Mercury and the North Node and the Sun, because it's Aries, like we're going to get this quick shift in our head and then bam, because Aries is fast. It doesn't have patience. It's fast. It gives you information quickly. Mercury's fast. The North Node is impulsive. Chiron is very patient. And in the sign of Aries, it's acting quicker. So that's what I see the major theme. Everything else, like Venus with Saturn, that's also a little bit challenging. It's challenging in regard to money. It's challenging in regard to love matters. Most likely you're seeing people where they're going to take more accountability in regard to how they're valuing money, maybe how they're spending money, how they're attracting money, and also in regard to how they're valuing themselves, or even if they're wanting to continue to be in a relationship. Venus, Saturn aspects can be challenging, yet they're a really big gift. Um, After you set your boundary and you get the response, you get your answer. And if the answer is something very supportive, you evolve and you vibrate higher. But if the answer is not as supportive, then it doesn't mean that at that point you're not going to vibrate higher. You have to let go so you can remove what is no longer functioning for you. And that's where I think that's where like the Saturn lesson comes in. But then once you release that, you realize that you're liberated, because Saturn brings some type of liberation. So you're going to see some lessons around that. I think that's one of the signatures with this season, the conjunction to Saturn, especially because Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, and Saturn is, Saturn loves Venus. Saturn loves the sign of Libra. So Saturn gets along with Venus. Venus, on the other hand, gets injured by Saturn. So it's it's Saturn that hurts Venus, not the other way around. Venus doesn't hurt Saturn. Age, right? Age makes the woman or what is it? Women are the one that don't want to age, right? Like Saturn is age. Yet at the same time, um, as a whole sign aspect, we're seeing both of these planets are gonna make a um aspect to Jupiter. I mean, the majority of the month until Jupiter then is ready to make a aspect to Uranus a little bit after the sun leaves Aries. So that's a conversation for another episode, but it's going to be an orb. So even though the exact conjunction doesn't happen during Aries season, we're still going to see like the energy of it kind of start happening as of this season. So um I think it's important to take a note of that. And then lastly, we have a growing gibbous trine from the sun to the moon. So we have um Aries season with a summer moon, which works really well. Fire to fire, cardinal fire to fixed fire. So it's very charging. And this is why Emma and I decided to do a Aries ritual that is about abundance, because we have themes about Jupiter being in the sign of money, and Venus is exalted. The sun is exalted in the sign of Aries. We have Pluto making a sextile to the sun. There's Saturn making a sextile to Jupiter, which is a great indicator for career aspect. Um, there's just a lot of supporting aspects, honestly. in the chart itself. So the season looks pretty nice. All the planets are kind of wedged on one side, so they're all in that energy of like the last, like the middle of the winter all the way to the middle of spring. Other than the moon goes all the way to the middle of summer, but the majority of the planets are right there. And I mean, Saturn, Mars is about to exit um winter at the middle of winter and go into the last month of winter when it goes into Pisces, and then kind of be wedged there for a while. But yeah, so the season itself looks very like changeable, very inspiring. So yeah, I hope you guys like it. There's going to be a lot of changes for sure with this energy. Okay, so now we get to the last bonus, the Aries ritual. And we just wanted to do this really quickly. Emma has some amazing candles, and these are some of the candles that I use in my Astrovive tribe. We do rituals monthly where we set intentions based on the energies of the new moon. And then I suggest personalized energies based on your or recommendations of what you should set intentions for based on your natal ascendant. And that's if you're a tribe member. So here, what we're going to focus on is an I am worthy ritual. So, what you need for this ritual is a pen, a paper, your favorite crystal, hopefully a red crystal, something like a um red jasper, a carnelian, um a garnet, a ruby, anything red or orange so it can match the energy of Aries.
Yeah,
um
carnelian is my favorite to work with Aries for some reason.
I love carnelian for Aries, honestly. It's actually one of the Vedic stones for Aries energy too. So the Vedic astrologers and the Vedic and ancient texts, they used a lot of crystals for remedies. So, I mean, they've taken, their data and research on the energy of crystals and how they can remedy certain things. So they have, their info on that. And carnelian is one of them that they use for Aries remedies. So, or to enhance the Aries energy. So yeah, that's probably why you can like feel it. It's very energizing. Like if you feel lethargic or tired, super energizing. I
Yeah.
have a carnelian pendant, and I love pendants because they sit right like at your heart chakra. And I feel like, especially for me, I feel like I get energized through my heart chakra. So I always wear like a pendant, especially with carnelian if I want more energy. It's like getting like a dose of like coffee. Boom. So either way, get your favorite crystal. Hopefully it's red, and you can place your crystal right next to the candle. And what you want to do with your piece of paper is you're going to start with the I am worthy statement. And you want to write, I am worthy of receiving, and then whatever amount of money you want to ask for. And the reason we're asking for money first, because Venus is exalted, the sun is exalted in Aries, the moon is in Leo, and Leo is ruled by the sun. And because the ruler of the sun is currently in Aries, it's exalted. So all the energy is kind of getting pulled back to those planets that are exalted right now. And those planets can bring you abundance. So this is kind of why we took advantage of using first the affirmation for Aries, which is I am, and then pulling in worthy, which is something that is connected to Venus and also a little bit connected to Jupiter. So you can pull in money. And what we're also utilizing is universe, and that's connected to the energy of Pisces. And what you're asking is in this letter is, I am worthy of getting or attracting this money. And you're going to say why. Because my acts of kindness. So then you're going to list what you've done. I've done charity work. I've helped my friend. Da, 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 all these things that you've done without you getting compensated. And then you're going to continue to write why. And then you are going to state the universe compensates me for my acts of kindness. The universe compensates me, and then the amount that you want. So if it's $1,000, right? $1,000 by whatever date. I would write the date most likely, like I would write it by the end of the season. So like that, you get it like soon by this date or even sooner. Don't make it too long. Make something that could be attainable, like SMART goals, attainable, and then um make it a timeline, right? So after you do that, you thank the energy with great gratitude for the highest good of all. Then you sign it, you fold it up. You're going to put it underneath your candle with wood matches. If you don't have wood matches, okay, get a lighter. But I prefer wood matches. That's what I use for my manifestation. But a lighter will do. You light your candle, and then you're going to place your candle on the southwest sector of your home. So if you don't have a home, like meaning you don't have your own house, you share your house with other people. That means you don't spend time in the entire house because you only spend time in your room most of the time. Then you're going to place your candle in the southwest sector of your room. It's very easy to find the southwest sector of your room. You get your phone, you pull up a compass app, and then you're just going to look for the southwest sector. So the arrow is going to point to it. You place it in that area. Why the southwest sector? There's reasons why, but the main reason is that is right now, this based on the lunar calendar, the Chinese lunar calendar this year, there's lucrative stars that year. So fire is going to stimulate abundance that year for this year. So you want to put it there. It's also extra good for women. That's also the women's sector. So women are getting extra, like an extra dose. You don't have to be a woman to manifest in that area, but you're getting an extra dose. It's like, oh, you're a woman, high five again. So it's like an extra dose for you. So you want to put it there, and you just want to let the candle burn safely. Anytime you work with fire, you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it. You want to make sure there's no debris around it. You want to make sure there's nothing that could fall over it, tip it over, make it burn. So be extra cautious. So do this ritual at your own discretion. Okay. Be extra careful. I love doing rituals with candles. Every single ritual that I do, I always use a candle. I always play with fire, and fire is very nice to me. I love playing with fire, but for some reason, there's some people that fire is not their friend. And if you happen to be one of those people, you do not have to use real fire. You can use a electronic candle, and that can work for you too. If you're not one of those people, though. Okay. Because Emma's candles smell amazing. You are going to love them. I fell in love with Emma's candles. And she doesn't just make zodiac candles, she has all sorts of other ones. Oh, and Mercury retrograde is coming, and she has a cool Mercury
Oh
retrograde.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm in love with it. So check it out. I know you were gonna talk a little bit. Tell me what's the scent for the Aries one? I know how it
Yes.
smells, but I can't describe it.
I know it's really hard to describe it, but basically the scent for the Aries candle, it's a blend of citrus with a hint of like jasmine. So to me, it smells really fresh, like spring.
It
I don't
does.
know if you got that vibe when you were smelling it or when you're lighting it,
Yes.
but basically it has citrus, jasmine. It also has a little bit of amber at the base that makes it a little bit bold, like that bold scent. But basically it's just a blend of citrus with like fresh jasmine.
You know what I feel like when I smell it? I feel like dancing in place, like doom, 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 doom. Like, it smells so good. I feel like I get like a jolt of energy and I just want to bounce around.
Yeah, yeah, it is very energizing. Like it smells energizing. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And I know some of your candles come with like a little crystal, and there's some that don't. Does this one
Uh,
come with a little crystal?
so the ones that come with the crystal are only the subscription boxes.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
the subscription you get like the three candles of the season. For example, like in a couple of days you're gonna receive the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini ones, so that you have
Ooh,
a candle to light for each season.
ooh.
And the
So
crystal that I'm including in the Aries is actually the carnelian.
ooh, I love it. See, so if you end up getting her subscription box, you don't even have to add a favorite crystal because it already has a crystal in it. And then when you burn the entire candle at the end, you get to keep that crystal. So you start your crystal collection. It's amazing. I love it. I love it, love it,
Oh,
love
thank
it.
you.
Yeah. I mean, I love crystals. I have all sorts of crystals. My kids have their crystals. I have crystals in my car. I have crystals everywhere.
Your
And
name is Crystal.
and I was like, I'm a crystal. Yes. And I'm actually holding a huge carnelian heart right now. Just
Oh,
yeah. But yes, so check out this candle. This is the candle for the season. This is the candle that we're going to be using for the Aries intention for the Astro tribe. If you guys are interested in joining or checking that out, that's also going to be in the description below. I'm also going to include the link for Emma so you guys can check out her store and check out all the other candles she offers. One of my other faves is Cozy Cabin. I know it's not Cozy Cabin or Cozy Cabin time is about to end, but I mean, I think I'm in the mood for Cozy Cabin even in the summer because honestly, it smells so good. Like I just love that smell, like the
yeah,
pineish
I made
smell.
it a
Like
year. Yeah, I made it a year round candle because everybody was asking me for it at like all time of the year. So I was like, okay, it can
I
stay
knew
a
it.
generic
I knew
candle.
it. I knew it because I still like honestly, that's the only one that I don't let the kids like just like turn on like all the time. I'm like, no, 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 use another one because my kids love to turn on candles. Like they love to have like a house vibe and like have the house smell nice. So they'll turn on the candles. And I was like, no, I only have a little bit of that one left. So use another one. That's my fave. So I need to order some more of that one. But the Virgo season is also my fave because that's another earthy one. I just like the earthy smelly ones too. Like I think that's like my thing. I
Yeah.
actually like all of them.
You said the other day, you said that Cancer was your favorite.
Yes, Cancer was my new
Cancer
favorite,
is
but
my
then
new favorite.
yes, yes, Cancer's my new favorite. But then I smell Virgo again, and I'm like, no, I still love Virgo. But then I smell Cancer again, and then I'm like, no, I love Cancer now. So I can't make up my mind. But then I smell Pisces, and then I love Pisces. Then I smell Leo, so I love all of them. And I know you're working on a 12-month one, so I'm
Yeah,
excited for that because that's the one that we're gonna release together when we release for the Astro Tribe. So I'm excited for that one because you'll get the 12 month candle set, so you'll have all the zodiac months and you can smell them all together. But then we're going to use them for rituals, and we're also gonna so you can keep track of everything that you do throughout the year. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I like the most because all the girls, like most of the members are girls, but I mean, we welcome anyone there, but most of the members are girls, and I love that they come back and say, "Hey, I manifested this and I worked on this," and I just love it. Like we've been like consistently working on things. Someone manifested a car, they came back and they talked about it. Like Emma said, she said intentions that she was going to be an astrologer. She worked on it, and like she's here doing this podcast with me. So like there's so many other good things. A job, people manifested jobs, people manifested like a few of them manifested jobs actually. Even like promotion, like getting certified so they can apply for another job. So passing the certification, like there's so many good things. Like it's such a good, I think it's a good tribe, like a support system, and everyone's like a friend there. So we welcome new people. Check it out if you're interested. But anything else you would like to add for Aries season?
Um, no, so I think to me, Aries season is really about like getting back out in nature. I know I said that in the beginning, but I feel like during the winter, we're all like hibernating and always inside the house. But to me, for Aries season, it's just go outside and like smell the flowers or take a walk in the park. Um, I don't know. That's and also be active. Like I like to be active outside. I hate working out indoors. So I prefer working out outside, but it's not something that I can always do during the winter because like I said, like I don't do well with the cold weather. So even though I'm in Miami, but still a little bit of, a drop in the weather is too cold for me.
Yes, I agree with you because I just don't work out in the cold. I don't work out anywhere in the cold, even if it's inside. But I love taking walks when, when the sun's out. I love the sun on my skin. I love to sun
Mhm.
gaze. I love to take walks along the pond. We have a like, a little park with pond and geese. And so, yeah, I love connecting to nature. That's one of the things that I love to do too. So, yeah, go out there and enjoy yourself and, just notice the patterns of the season. Notice
Mhm.
how the animals are responding, how the plants are responding, and I think most importantly, just remember to ground. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about this season is that you get to ground during the winter. We're not able to because the ground is so cold. And, a lot of us can get sick if we do it because it's so cold. Um, but as, the weather starts getting nicer, we can take off our shoes and ground. There's a good YouTube movie called Earthing, and there's books on this. And I'm like such an advocate about grounding. So we need to connect back to earth, and this also activates our psychic abilities and our connection back to nature. So go out there and ground and connect to nature and just invite Aries season and then just welcome the rest of the seasons that are coming so we can start this all over again.
Yeah. I think you're convincing me to do the sun gazing again.
Yeah, let's do it.
And yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much, Emma. And we will catch you guys for the next recording. We're going to do a special on the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And stay tuned for that because we're going to bring in some info about the market and how Jupiter and Uranus are going to change some stuff around. So we're excited about that. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Exciting times ahead.